Here at the Life Live Better podcast, we are true believers in the quality of Anchor by Spotify. We have been using Anchor since we first started our podcast, and now that we're halfway through our second season, we cannot imagine recording this podcast without it. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and then edit your podcast right from your computer or even your phone. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on all the listening platforms, like even Spotify and Apple. It's everything you need to make your podcast, and you can find it all in one place. But best of all, and oh so necessary when you're first starting out, it is completely free. So give it a try. Go download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm right now and get started. Hi, this is Paula.
And I'm Joseph, and you're listening to Life Lived Better. How was your weekend?
It's good. How about yours? Hot.
God, so hot. It's ridiculous. And I feel like I had $1 for every time somebody says it's hot.
No, it is getting miserably hot though. I mean, I can tolerate, when I work out in the yard every day and I can tolerate the heat, but I just think compared to last summer, I would go out and work several hours and it was hot, but I tolerated it. This summer, I cannot tolerate it.
Yeah.
I either go out really early in the morning or when sun is about to go down. It's just me and the mosquitoes outside. And I just hurry and do as much as I can, before it's dark, but it's just intolerable during the day.
I have no desire to be outside. Unless it's at a pool. We went to a friend's pool this weekend and that was nice.
Oh,
But
yeah.
even the water, I mean, we went on that camping trip, last weekend? I think it was last weekend, and it was just miserable hot. The pool was hot, the lake was hotter than the pool. Like it was just hot everywhere.
I don't like miserable hot. I
No.
mean, getting in water that's warm, and it's not like a hot tub intentionally, I don't like that. I do wish we had a pool right now. I helped my neighbor do some things in their garden and they have a pool. And I was like, I could really get in this. We were helping them. They were out of town for a little while. So we were just picking tomatoes in their garden and doing some things that they asked, told us if you don't mind. And my husband was like, about midnight, I'm going to get naked and jump the fence and go over and hang out in their pool. He was joking, of course. He wouldn't do that.
Of course. Most neighbors are generally okay with you using their pool.
Yeah, they wouldn't mind at all. They are the nicest people. They had someone watching their house for them. They have animals and they were going to have someone come feed their bird and some other things. And I was walking on their back deck with my tomatoes and the zinnias. She asked me to pick the zinnias because they grow better if you pick them, she said. And I was just walking through there and my husband says, they don't have blinds or anything. I would hate that. And I started looking, I was like, oh, they don't. And I was right up on their deck, right at their living room window. And all of a sudden I looked, there's someone sitting on their couch staring at me. And I was like, I scared them. They scared me. It was the person that was watching their animals. I was like, whoops, I'm just here to get tomatoes.
So they have somebody watching their house, but they asked you guys to do some stuff too.
Yeah, I think they just wanted people in and out of there. They were out of the country for almost a month. So I think they just wanted a little activity over there, just like, we were that month we were gone.
So you didn't do anything over the weekend?
I went shopping a little bit. I went and got a new shirt. This is a new shirt.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I bought a pair of shorts. Very excited about that. It's so hot. I had to wear shorts and cleaned my car out and started my garage organization project for the summer.
Nice.
I've been planning it for 3 or 4 months. I've been buying the little organization tools and things, and I printed up all my labels. Every door in the garage, we have cabinets and stuff, has a label on it now.
Nice.
And I'm beginning with the first, and off we go. I just started sorting the screws.
Wow. We went to an estate sale this weekend and I had the biggest garage envy. This guy had everything just sorted and he had tubs that were labeled with everything that was in them and shelves. And I mean, it was just one of the guys that was in the garage was like, "Can you believe this?" And I was like, "I can't.
Was it
I can't."
oversized or?
No, it was like a 2-car garage, but it had enough room on one side that there were, like workbenches and
Mm-hmm.
storage.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy had just like fully taken full advantage of every square foot, square inch that he had, and just like little cubbies for the little plastic tubs that he had things in. And like one was labeled sprinklers, one was labeled like hanging wires, and just different groupings of things.
Oh,
It was
wow.
amazing.
Did you take photos?
No.
I'm seriously have like a huge desire to do something like that in my garage. I'm hopefully on my way
Yeah.
to something like that. I've looked at photographs. I've looked at when we did our decluttering episode, I had that
Mm-hmm.
opportunity back then to look up all kinds of organization
Yeah.
for the garage. Wow, there's all kinds of things you can do. It just
Pretty amazing what people come up with.
we have a workspace in our garage. It's like 2-car garage and a half. It's got
Mm-hmm.
like the extra space when we have cabinets on both sides. And it's a wonderful place to keep things. But if it ever gets disorganized, it's just a maddening mess. That's why I'm getting things into bins. I know that on our decluttering episode, there were so many wonderful tips, and you gave me some good tips about getting things up off the floor.
Hmm.
I just need to find more tools and such.
Right. Yeah, I started hanging things on the wall in the garage. I hang my luggage on the wall. We have some Christmas, like we have a gigantic ornament that goes over our walkway that's like LED and metal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like 5 pieces. And so I last year I had all those kind of crammed up on shelves on top of things. And this year when I put it up, I was like, why don't I put this on the wall? There's plenty of space there. So I've just started moving things to the walls.
Yeah. I went out to our shed with Joe the other day, and like there's shelves and things in there that I don't take advantage of. And I was like, we need to drag a bunch of that stuff in our garage out to the shed and use the
Mm-hmm.
garage for only what we need. But it has to be labeled because I have to know what's in it, because from time to time I need something.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find my 4th of July decorations this year, so I had to buy all new ones.
That's
That's
terrible.
dreadful. That's dreadful.
We have one little 4th of July inflatable we put out. We put him out for 4th of July memorial. It's a little dinosaur holding an American flag.
Oh, how cute.
It's very cute.
How cute. I love decorating for every holiday.
Yeah.
So I have a little bin, and then I've got 26 of them for Christmas. So
Yeah, same. All of our storage is dedicated to Halloween and Christmas.
my son will be graduating in December with his undergraduate degree. And I was thrilled, of course, that he's graduating, but more exciting that everyone that's coming will get to see my house decorated for Christmas.
Nice.
Because I know my family doesn't come here for Christmas. I go to back where we were raised. I was like, oh my God. So everyone will get to see the 11 Christmas trees I put up.
I have a friend that does that. He puts up, I don't know that it's 10, but it's more than 5. Like, I think he has a Christmas tree in every room and they're all themed. And I'm just like, that's a lot. It's a whole lot.
It is.
I've gotten to where it takes me a couple of days now to get everything out for Christmas because I collect those Department 56 pieces and each one is in an individual box in styrofoam. And it's like this whole situation to get them out and display them. But they bring me so much joy. I love them. They're terrible, terrible, terrible to store, but I just love them so much.
Yeah, that's what I've decided. I mean, my family, they don't care and they don't help anymore. They'd be okay if I didn't put anything up. And one year we didn't. The year we had COVID, we didn't put anything up. But
yeah,
I love the process of decorating and I love looking at the decorations. And there are some rooms I put 2 trees in.
wow.
And I just love them, and my house isn't huge, but
Yeah.
I just love in every nook and cranny, there's a little bit of Christmas, and I just love looking at that stuff. And I do get excited, and I did go a little overboard a couple of years ago. I think they did roll their eyes whenever I left the house and put a Christmas tree on the patio. Can't help it. Can't help it. Hey, if these are my biggest problems.
Right. So what are we talking about today?
Well, we're talking about self-esteem.
Self-esteem.
Yes. And, self-esteem, Our sourced information can be found on our website, but according to the information I looked up, it just kind of defined it as the way a person thinks and feels about their own abilities, qualities, characteristics, And most of the time when we talk about self-esteem, we're talking about whether it's high or low.
I feel like mine should be high, but when I took our little test, I was surprised to find out that it is not.
Yeah, me too. Mine was not. Mine said I had some room for improvement, but you and I talked about, and we'll go through that test, that the fact that that test is true or false, which is just kind of a black or white.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's no room for leeway. I always kind of falter on the side of like, if this is ever true, I mark it as true.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if we were able to talk through the test, I might be able to explain.
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
explain that I don't have low self-esteem.
Yeah, when I do this with my clients, I go through it. I don't show them the key, go through them and talk about them. And there's a couple of them that have words like, always and never and,
Mhm.
need. And those are the things that kind of trip me up on the true false portion.
Yeah, that is awesome. That would be really interesting. I would love to listen to that, be a fly on the wall during a group like that, just to hear what impacts people, because from everything I researched, self-esteem is subjective. It isn't true. The thing that we feel about or think and feel about these characteristics of ourselves, they are subjective. They aren't true. I mean, it isn't a fact. And that's what's, I think, frustrating sometimes when you're working with someone or friends with someone or in a relationship with someone who has low self-esteem about a certain thing. It's hard because whenever you look at them, you don't see it that way at all. I think some of the information that I looked through said that, kind of the main areas that people struggle with self-esteem is in like their academics or intelligence, just general education, their career, their physical abilities, physical appearance. It's really frustrating to have a person, think that they are ugly or fat or, some of the things that many people feel about themselves physically, for instance, and when they're absolutely not, it's just low self-esteem. Because of that, it's also linked with depression, and often the physical appearance part is linked with some disordered eating.
Yeah,
Yes.
I when I think of self-esteem, I always think of I've always kind of, I guess, put it on kind of my appearance and weight. I know we've talked about this, like weight has always been kind of like how I measure my esteem, my worth, my value, all of those things. It's all kind of wrapped up in weight, and it's crazy. And I know it's crazy, but it's still, something that is a struggle. Reading through this information, I think there's a lot of different areas that your self-esteem comes from. And I think that's going to be really interesting to kind of talk about. And then, getting into ways that we can actually work on how we get our self-esteem up, which I think really helps with our value, our worth, helps in a lot of different areas.
Absolutely. I think it definitely increases our ability, to thrive. It just seems like the more I believe in myself, the more that I can accomplish. It's just pretty amazing that way. The alternative is I would like to hear a group where someone didn't get 1 point on this test. I mean, that they didn't have any kind of struggle with self-esteem. Not that it was high, their self-esteem was high, but that they thought everything was perfect with them.
I've had clients that have gotten 16 trues, and I've had clients that have gotten no trues, all falses. So it is interesting.
I think somewhere kind of in that happy medium, like just maybe a realistic view of ourselves,
Yeah.
One of the things I think is interesting is definitely been true for me is that young adults tend to have lower self-esteem than older adults, which makes sense. I think the more we live and the more life experience we have, the more we realize perfection is an illusion, and that the things that maybe we think are important, really aren't as important as we age. I know that has been for me. I mean, we talked about like body image and stuff. For years, I measured my my esteem that way by a number on the scale. And I really did think that so many things would change if I had this certain number on the scale, and I have that certain number on the scale, and it doesn't mean as much as it did whenever I was running my whole life looking for that number. I just thought everything would magically change, really, like you would just get to a finish line and you'd break through
Right.
the tape and you'd be like, poof, it's all what I wanted. And the confetti would fall, it's just like, wow, isn't it weird that so many other things are part of the life will be perfect if
Yeah.
there are so many things a part of it, not just that one thing. Isn't it interesting when you don't have that to blame anymore, what you have to do?
Yeah, it's amazing to me at how, we have goals, we accomplish our goals. And I think goals are good, they're healthy, they're important. But when we talk about our wants and, like for weight loss, for instance, like the goal is to, lose 20 pounds and then you lose 20 pounds and you want to lose 5 more pounds or 10 more pounds and you lose that. So it's like there's never really, like an ending point. It's just a constant. And I think it all comes from our own thinking and our own kind of flaws and our thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. The last time my therapist and I met, we often go through a workbook that has to do with disordered eating, body image, and such. And one of the questions was how, like, it was probably like a Likert scale on a scale of 1 to 10, how anxious would you be if you were told you couldn't weigh for the next 2 weeks? I was like, I think I would be much better today, but 10, 15, 20 years ago, if you would have told me that, I would have come unglued. But I did say to her, you're not asking me to do that, are you? You're just asking, right? I still can, right?
Right.
Interesting that even though I feel like I am not tied to a scale anymore, I still, if someone's going to mess with it for me, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I agree. I still weigh every morning, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but for me, it used to be a bad thing. And now I think it's just something that helps me kind of remember I need to drink more water today.
I think that there's a difference between using weight as a tool, your weight on a scale as a tool. For me, it informs me of things like that. Like, do I need to increase my consumption of water? Do I need to, do I already know it's going to be some way because of how I ate over the weekend or XYZ? Very different than stepping on a scale and feeling like you're a worthless piece of doo-doo because of the number on a scale. Or, oh, amazing, you're a good person today because of that number. Those are, to me, are very different feelings, the way that I used to measure it in the past.
So what are some other ways you think people measure or signs maybe of what low self-esteem looks like?
Well, some of the things the source material tells us is that whenever you have an inner voice with a lot of negative self-talk, I tell students, my example of this is if you're walking into a job interview, what tape is playing in your head? Is the tape like, oh, I'm going to nail this. This is going to be great. I'm going to be the best I can be. Or is it like, I'm never going to get this job. It's awesome. My mom was right. That there's a big difference between what we say to ourselves when no one else can hear that stuff. It's our own voice talking to ourselves, or, well, it's usually someone else's voice that we're just repeating. But, what is that's going on in your head?
I like that example a lot because we've all been in job interviews. So that's a great way to kind of figure out where your thought processes are. I always think of like messages that we hold on to from, growing up, like the negative talk that then gets stuck in our head that we cycle through. So that's one of the things, one of the groups that I do, and I talk about kind of healthy thinking and thought dropping and negative thinking, things like that, is kind of have the group kind of talk about messages that they have that they've heard and, how that has it carried on into your adult life. Do you still, repeat that stuff, or is it something that you were able to kind of let go of in your teen years or, move on from? And most people hold on to those messages.
Isn't it
When
amazing?
you ask somebody a negative, like something they remember, a negative message that they heard growing up, they pretty quickly can ramble off a couple.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
When I tell clients or students about like that negative self-talk, that inner voice, I tell them that it's like computer that was misprogrammed, that the computer was programmed to believe that 2 plus 2 equals 5, even though we know it equals 4. And just that little misprogram changes the data on everything that occurs in that computer. Because when you insert the information in the beginning that is not accurate, it will get everything will be inaccurate as a result. It is bananas to think how it's just bizarre to think of how information other people said about us because they were broken gets plugged in and put into the system as if it was the truth, that is, as if it were fact.
It's amazing the stuff that sticks with us. It's and working with people over the years, like some of the things that people hold on to and remember, and I'm no exception to that. I mean, there are definitely things that I hold on to and that I, can recall, but some people just get really stuck in it. And I think that's one of the things that really, really impacts your self-esteem, is that if you are stuck in that kind of those old messages and that old dialogue, like you said, that inner self-talk, it's gonna do some damage.
It really does. It does. Some of the other things that I found on that list, things that we have actually talked about in some of our previous episodes, like not being able to accept a compliment, that's a sign of low self-esteem.
I believe that.
Or not being able to accept constructive criticism or feedback, not being able to accept it and having a problem like responding to it.
We were talking about that the other day, and not you and I, me and a client were discussing constructive feedback and criticism and how different things factor into that. So like it depends on your environment, it depends on the person. I know, like as a therapist, I've had clients sit in front of me and me say something to them, and one of the couple get really upset. One of the individuals in the relationship gets really upset because they're like, I've said that to you, and now you hear it. you know who's giving you the information? Like all of that kind of factors into how you receive that, timing, all of there are so many things that go into that. So that's one of those things that for me is difficult to kind of navigate and difficult to say yes or no to, because there's so many things that kind of factor into it. Probably me just talking myself out of it, but it makes sense in my head.
Yeah. People who live so much of their life trying to get compliments or approval from people who will never give it to them, rather than hearing it from the people who give it to them. That's a difficult thing to watch. I've heard it said like you go to the hardware store to buy milk and they're never ever going to sell milk. That they don't sell milk when you walk in the door, but you keep trying to get some. Like they never will. They're not a milk store. They're not a grocery. They're not going to sell milk. They're going to sell nuts and bolts. They're a hardware store. Like going to the parent that didn't approve of you, and you wanting and wanting and wanting their approval, when there are 10 people in your life that are giving you that praise and giving you that all those positive things that you want, but you don't take it from them. You want it from that one person who can't give it to you. They're just not capable.
So true.
It's difficult to watch. I've done it. It's happened in my life, definitely. And it's when you want it from someone who cannot give it. I think that's probably the best piece of information I received to correct that for myself is it's someone who is unable to give it for whatever reason. Some people can't because of their issues, not about you, but because of their issues. They can't give it to you. They just won't. And, looking for it in other places rather than being the test of whether you are worthy.
And it feels crummy to give someone kind of positive feedback, or tell someone they look nice, or, something positive that you see in them, and for them to just dismiss it. It doesn't feel good.
I know it is. It's hard. I know, like cognitively, I know that things aren't about me, like that how you respond to me, unless I'm being, abusive or something towards you, is not about me. It's about you. But it's hard to give those things and not receive, and not hear back like something a little healthier.
So one of the other ones on your list was unhealthy methods of coping. such as overeating, drinking, or smoking.
Yeah,
So many people struggle with coping skills. And again, I'm no exception to that. I have coping mechanisms that work really well for me, but I still have certain things trigger inappropriate coping mechanisms.
Positive or negative, when something helps us cope, we're going to do it. Even if it's a negative, like if overeating, drinking, or smoking, those are negative things, but they do work.
Yeah.
So of course they're easy go-to. All three of those would be an easy go-to for someone.
My
Just makes
therapist,
sense.
yeah, it does. My therapist and I were talking about something the other day, and we live in a society now where it's instant gratification. Like there's, if you get on social media, you get on TikTok or you get on Snapchat or you get on something, if you don't like it, you just swipe to the next thing and to the next thing and to the next thing until you find something that you do like. So it's like we have no tolerance for things that we don't like anymore, because we can just, in 30 seconds, we can be somewhere completely different that we are happy with.
I want to meet people where they are. I really do. But I do struggle with tolerance. I mean, you have to have tolerance, and not everything is always going to go your way. Not everything around you is always going to be pleasant. And because I work on a university campus, I have a little, like a little glimpse into certain generations, just generations of people. So I see the kids that people talk about, I see them every day. And I think there is a need for people to digest certain pieces of information that are intolerable. I think that in order to be a healthy individual, I think it's important that we have tolerance of people that aren't what we want or what we prefer or like us. We allow people to be who they are, and that we not force others to be the way we want them to be just because it ruffles our feathers a little bit. But yesterday when I was shopping, I walked by a man. I'm pretty good at like my face not showing my feelings just from being a counselor for so long. But I walked by this guy and he had a shirt on. I assume he was talking about the president and vice president, but it said, "Joe and that hoe gotta go." Like my thought was, I cannot freaking believe someone's wearing that in public. And he was like with somebody that was like a parental kind of person because he was younger. And I was like, "You're freaking wearing that in public." I came home and I had to like talk it over with Joe. I was like, cannot believe that somebody thought, "Oh, I'm going to wear this, but I never want to live in a world where people can't do that, but it is, for me, tolerance is just going, okay, that's one way to express your feeling and move on. And, I'm not going to complain to the establishment where I was shopping that person was, triggering me.
That's one of those things that from the test, one of the questions was, I don't worry what others think of my views. I think it's really incredible that people feel comfortable. For me personally, I struggle with saying what you believe or saying what you think about something without worrying about how other people are going to think about it or what other people are going to think about it. So that's something I struggle with, because I can all day long listen to people. I may not like it, but all day long can listen to people share about their opinions and their beliefs. But when I want to share about my opinions and my belief, I'm very hesitant to do so. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's a self-esteem issue, a self-worth issue, or if it's just, my codependency personality or what.
I think, and that's part of what you and I talked about that this test for me it isn't black or white, because I speak up for myself. I'm okay with my views, but I think there's a time and a place for me to share my views. I don't think that I am conscious of whether my views would impact other parts of my life, like political views, for instance. I don't think that they have a place at work.
Right.
And some people are real okay with sharing their politics and their, or their spiritual beliefs. I just don't think that I think that there are certain places that you talk about things and certain places that you don't. And that's just me. So I won't always share, some of my views. So does that mean that I don't always speak up for myself? or, tell my views, maybe, because at work, I don't sit in there talking about the election and why I feel about certain people the way that I do. While some people do feel confident doing that, I
Yeah.
don't. Part of, I was raised where you just don't talk about that kind of stuff.
Right.
There are some
Right.
things you don't talk about at work, you don't talk about in certain places. That's just me. So, but I don't think that is a reflection of my self-esteem as much as it is my boundaries about like
Mm.
where I share those things.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Some of the others on the list of, if you're having low self-esteem, this might avoiding social gatherings or social situations, avoiding challenges or difficult situations, so probably low risk taking here.
Excessive sensitivity. We were just talking about that. So people just being really sensitive to feedback, to, just I think conversations in general.
Mm-hmm. With my students, I talk to them about taking care of themselves mentally, their emotions, their mental health. And so we have topics in the classroom that are sometimes difficult to
Hmm.
talk about because clients are going to share things that are real difficult. And I talk to my colleagues like you about people's readiness to go into the counseling field. And this is one of the places, like if you're very sensitive where a certain topic, you want to avoid it, or you ask that it not be talked about, or
Hmm.
you want to walk out of the room when it's being talked about. It's real hard to be a counselor and be sensitive like that to certain topics because clients have to be able to talk about whatever they need to talk about in an appropriate way, of course, not like in an
Right.
abusive way towards you, but they're going to talk about their whole life. And if you've got some stuff in your past or because of embarrassment or whatever that you can't stomach, it's a hard field to be in, to
Hmm.
be excessively sensitive.
Yeah. I think that's where you have to really practice that professional kind of boundary and
Mhm.
being able to empathize without taking all that on.
Right, without a doubt.
Yeah. Let's see. So one of the obvious ones, low self-esteem, to me, it's obvious at least, is the mental health side of it, like anxiety, depression, developing eating disorders,
Mhm.
things like that that can show up as a direct result.
Absolutely.
Something else that I thought was really interesting was the part where it talks about, you just because you have low self-esteem in one area doesn't mean that you have low self-esteem in all areas.
Absolutely. That's somebody can be just like on fire at work. They can be like just, the best at their job and they can, are it. But they have, a struggle in a different area. They have another, a struggle in another area. They
Hmm.
may be the bomb at their career, but they struggle with their physical appearance. They, don't feel like they look good, but
Yeah.
they do their job well and they can know they do their job well. Academics and intelligence, someone can have 7 or 8 degrees, but not be able to keep a job.
Hmm.
I think that is it's difficult to understand, but I think it makes sense
Yeah.
that we can be great in one area. We can be a bodybuilder, have all the physical ability in the world, but then look at yourself in the mirror and think, oh, I just need to do something about that one little pudge.
Hmm. Yep.
It's unfortunate.
It is. So career is another place where I think people really either excel or struggle because people put a lot of value in what they do.
Hmm.
And if you're not happy with what you're doing, then that's sometimes is something that affects all areas of your life. I've had people that have careers that they're wonderfully happy in, and then they lose that job and they're either between jobs or they end up just taking a job in order to work, and it affects just everything, their relationship,
Hmm.
their joy, their happiness. So there is a lot of value that gets placed on that for some people. And
Yeah.
I think all of us, like, for me, I would say my value gets placed on career, my value gets placed on the body image stuff. One of those things are healthy and one of those things are not, in my opinion.
Yeah. For a while in my career, I struggled because I didn't know how to do it. And when I didn't know how to do it, that made my esteem a little fragile. And then, of course, 10 years later, well, yeah, I know how to do that. I don't come across much in my job now that is a challenge as far as the how to do part. And so I feel good about my job. I feel really good about it. So one thing I think is that the longer you do something and the longer you do something well, the higher your esteem can become if you look at it realistically to see that you are doing a good job.
Yeah.
If you are getting good feedback about it,
So what are some things that help increase our self-esteem?
I think definitely take this self-esteem test. I mean, let's put this on the website so everyone can take it. It's only 16 true false questions. I mean, heck, take it and first see where you are on that list. But some of the things that we learned in doing this research is that, like we say so often, is go to therapy. And what we read said that specifically like CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy, that kind that gives you goals and directions and things to accomplish, seek that kind, which a majority of therapists out there will be doing CBT. Not all of them. Just look that up when you go on Psychology Today to find your therapist.
Changing the way you think. I think everything comes from a thought. All of our actions, everything that we do starts with a thought. So if our thinking starts with negativity, then our actions follow that.
Exactly.
So CBT is, about changing the way you think about things, seeing, different perspectives, redirecting some of those thoughts.
Exactly. And we say this so often, and it's on this list too. Eat healthy foods and exercise on a regular basis. That can increase your self-esteem. Apparently, that's the magic pill.
Just do that every day and everything will be better.
Exactly. All of the stuffs.
What do you think, like why is eating healthy something that would be beneficial for our self-esteem?
I think that how we fuel ourselves plays out physiologically. I think if we just fuel ourselves with junk, I don't want to go to the car and the gas tank every time, but I'm going to have to. If you put, water in your gas tank or sugar in your gas tank or all the stuff you're not supposed to, it clogs it up. It messes it up. It doesn't make it function the way that it's supposed to. Unhealthy foods actually do cause you to have difficulty in your brain,
Brain fog.
concentrating, brain fog. So your perception of yourself can get caught up in there too. If you don't feel well, you aren't going to feel good about yourself if you don't physically feel good.
And exercising, I think everybody can understand that. Like it's just it releases all those good chemicals in our brain, and we just, it's hard to, once you get past like the pain of working out, like it's hard to not feel good after you've worked out or done some kind of exercise. Like you said earlier, you go out and work in the yard 30 minutes a day, you do something outside. That's something that I would assume is very beneficial for your mental health, for, exercise is just something that helps.
Absolutely. And if two of the big categories that we've talked about related to self-esteem, one of them is physical ability and the other is physical appearance, eating healthy foods and exercising regularly directly impact both of those.
Right.
I mean, physical ability, I can't do today what I could do 20 years ago. But if I still am doing, if a body in motion stays in motion, that I have to be able, for me, it's important that I continue to physically do what I am able.
And the more you do physically, I think the more you do, like you can build up tolerance, you can build up strength, build up muscle mass. Like, you don't have to do a whole lot to increase. If you take a few extra steps, I always think like there's so many little opportunities to exercise. You don't have to go to a gym. You can park your car at the back of the parking lot. You can take the stairs instead of the elevator. There's so many opportunities, and it doesn't have to be, because I think we talk about exercise a lot. And when I think of exercise, I immediately think of the gym or, dedicated an hour to this. And sometimes people don't have an hour. So just doing things throughout your day that are going to get your heart rate up, that are going to, get you breathing a little bit heavier and, that are just going to be healthy, that are going to feel
Exactly.
good.
Yeah, I mean, and as you age, it's just muscle mass retention is important.
Mm-hmm.
I know in many senior living centers, they teach like sitting in your chair aerobics,
Mm-hmm.
chair aerobics, chair yoga, things that you can do without ever moving. So it's not about hitting the gym and lifting dumbbells and barbells all the time. Sometimes it's just about moving and stretching your body and what you
Right.
have the ability to do to keep it to where you can continue to use it.
I agree. And one of the things I talk to clients about, and something I practice myself, is gratitude, making gratitude lists, things that you're grateful for. Those are things that I firmly believe help increase our worth and our esteem.
Mm-hmm.
Affirmations. It's a conversation I have on a pretty regular basis. And I think probably my clients get a little tired of it from time to time, but I feel like it ties into a lot of topics. Like if you can write down 3 things a day that is going to help rewire your thinking and help you be a more positive person, why would you not do that?
I know. It's absurd that we don't do the things that we know would help us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just as guilty, stop doing what works and then you wonder what happened.
Right.
Whoops, what happened? Well, what did you do? What are you doing differently?
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. There you go. Well, it makes perfect sense. If our low self-esteem list says that whenever you focus on what you don't want more than what you want, that is all that's in your head. So focus
Lots
on the
lead to
good
actions.
stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Having a support group, having friends and family is important. Having people around us is important. They can increase our self-esteem because sometimes they are the ones that help us see what we can't see. I
Mm-hmm.
know you and I as friends, many times we're sounding boards for one another. It's like, okay, this is what's going on. Am I seeing this correctly? Just that
Mm-hmm.
little bit of feedback and support from somebody else can be
Yeah.
life changing.
Can make all the difference.
It can.
Yeah. I think the last one there, volunteering, is really a great way to just feel better overall. Anytime I've ever volunteered, like it's just something that lifts your spirits, it helps you feel more connected, helps
Mhm.
you in lots of different ways.
Well, and if you're helping other people, you're not thinking about yourself. You can also look at situations with other people and go, okay, maybe my situation isn't as bad. If I'm at a homeless shelter helping hand out meals, maybe I can be grateful that I have somewhere to live
Mhm.
and I have food to eat. There's a lot that comes with being of service to somebody.
Absolutely. I think overall, just, working on the power of thought, like the power of that our brain has over every, I mean, our brain is our computer, like it's where everything starts. And, so if you can focus on redirecting those thoughts, redirecting those negative messages, and, we always say like play the tape all the way through. So don't end on a negative, like,
Mhm.
put a spin on the back end of it and make it a positive. You don't have to stop at the negative, but that takes practice and it takes time,
It really
but it's a
does.
good practice.
And this
'Cause-
is one of the topics that the information tells us our esteem is subjective. It is all about how we see it, period, the end. It's a
yeah,
score about how we perceive it to be. Um,
agreed. 100%. Well, thanks for listening, and don't forget that knowledge leads to a life lived better. Thank you for listening to Life Lived Better with Paula and Joseph.